1.
Coming to you live from deep within actually it's sort of windy and leafy, radioactive wasteland. We are the survivors of the alt-right kek apocalypse, the few, the brave, the bitchy, once more wading into battle against the froggy lobster zombie hordes with Rantzerker. Let me just open this up.
Don't forget, they're also plants. There are plants.
Oh, plants.
So
yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Plant
the horticultural hordes.
The horticultural hordes. I got to add that one. The lobster zombie horticultural hordes with Rantzerker 225. Experts weigh in on the best way to ignore your problems, Jubilee style. And this is another installment of how to pretend we don't have a problem with what's going on in society. And I'm your host, Alison, and this time I am able to stream. So I'm on the secondary streaming setup. And with me is Karen and Brian, and we are once again wading into the swamps of Jubilee, the horticultural, the the rotting vegetation that is Jubilee. I'm trying to extend this metaphor, but I don't think it extends any further. But anyway, we're going into the Jubilee mental swamps. And I was actually invited to come on this show, so it's really interesting to see what it ended up being without me. I don't know if I would have added anything, though. Maybe just a little bit of confusion. All right, so let's shall we start? Because we did actually successfully do our fundraiser. Finished up yesterday.
Yay.
We didn't have much left when we started the show, only $45. So somebody popped in with the last 50. So thank you. I think it was Craig C, actually, and I might have given him a shout out last time, but thank you again. And if you want to send us a message at any point throughout the show, if you have something you'd like to add, if you want to correct us, if you want to yell at us, we'll take it all and we'll respond to it all. feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us those comments. Don't have to put it through YouTube, and we get the full benefit of whatever funds you send. So, shall we just get right into it?
Yeah. So where we left off was just the start of the next statement that the panel is choosing to agree or disagree with. It was feminism is trying to remove masculinity from society. The people who agreed with it have already come forward and said their piece, and now the disagreeers are stepping forward, including the plant here. And we'll see what they have to say. So I'm just going to play it from there. Let me turn on the appropriate things here.
That's perfect. The plant in so many ways.
Indeed it is.
He believes he's a plant. He is a plant, and he's possibly a plant from another planet.
All right, let's do it.
On a plant-based
Men
diet.
typically get custody of their children way more often than not. When a woman rightfully and honestly gives her.
Okay. Is this the does feminism want to get rid of masculinity question? And so we're on custody for some reason.
Yeah, I think it came up when the agreeers were talking about it.
They were talking about you need a father in the home to teach mature masculinity to boys.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. So now
she's
we're
saying that men get custody, and that means
No,
something.
she's saying men get custody way more often.
Way more often than not. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. They don't, period. And if they did, then feminists would support shared custody initiatives with a rebuttable presumption, because that would get rid of the bias for fathers. But they don't, because they know that there's a bias for mothers. Yeah. Look at what they do and not at what they say. Feminists do not support shared custody initiatives, even though that would completely erase any bias towards fathers and give women a level playing field. But they don't support that because they know the truth. This is absolute. Everything coming out of her mouth is a complete lie.
Yep. I don't know where I want to know where she gets this from. So maybe they'll explain why.
She probably gets it from the Massachusetts study from like 1989, and that's been thoroughly debunked.
Is it the one where, because I know that one argument that's often made, and I don't remember if she makes this, is that it's only when men ask for it and men don't ask for it, because the assumption is men don't want to be involved with their children.
Yeah, well, no, but I mean, the issue is that data doesn't necessarily measure up, because most men go into a divorce thinking that their wife is going to be fair, unless they've already been burned once. And so when a man files for divorce, he usually doesn't ask for custody, and he probably would never actually want 100% sole physical custody, right? So women are much more likely to ask for sole physical custody. And, but then the study that they always reference, it didn't make any kind of distinction between joint custody being Wednesday evenings and every other weekend, or joint custody being 50-50 physical custody, right? 50-50 shared parenting. It didn't even make a distinction between legal custody and physical custody, because there is a difference, right? A man who has legal custody but no visitation rights still has a right to phone his kid's school and ask what their grades are and things like that, right? They still have a say in medical decisions and things like that, right? So it's like, and they lump them all in together. But even when the guy actually crunched the numbers on the website Breaking the Science, he found that when women requested custody and when men requested custody, women were granted some form of custody 6 times more often than men who asked for custody, right? So even in cases where the man does ask for custody, 6 times more often, if the woman also asks for custody, she will get some form of custody than he will. So it's playing with numbers. It's what they love to do.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Expanding definitions, redefining terms, like you said, expanding numbers, altering, just like a little shell game, and all of a sudden,
the interpretation. It's like, well, okay, so Noel Plum did a video ages ago about the wage gap, and we're talking like wages, hourly wages, straight time, no overtime, right? Between men and women. And they found that there was an 11%, women earned 11% less than men did, okay, in hourly wages, just straight time, like absolutely like the purest measure, right, for all jobs, right? And then they went and they looked, and they found that the wage gap, so it was 17%, sorry. And then they found that in full-time work, it was 11%. Women were earning 11% less. So you would expect that in part-time work, women would be making way less than men, right? To make up that 17%, to bring that 11% up to 17%. No, wrong. Women were making 8% more than men in part-time work. It's just that when you have more women in part-time work than men, right? And the men are all earning less. Well, they just don't contribute. The men don't contribute that much to the group of part-time workers in terms of numbers. And it's the same with women. When women work full-time less, then they don't contribute to the whole freaking group. So it's like, it's called the Simpsons paradox. And these people take advantage of it all the time. Anytime that they can just kind of rejigger the numbers, and they're not changing figures necessarily. They're just, we're going to use this equation rather than that equation, and give this impression rather than that impression. So. Yeah.
Well, let's continue. Let's hear what she says, because I don't know what I doubt that it's going to be that involved. I think that there might be. Well, we'll see. Maybe I don't want to presume that she's dumb, but let's listen to this.
Experience of domestic violence in the marriage, she's more likely to lose custody of her children. There is no issue with men getting custody.
That's not true.
That's absolutely not true. You're just making numbers out of your...
What percent of the time do men get custody of their kids?
At least 50% of the time. What you're thinking about?
That is not true.
Men don't fight for
No. See,
At least
see what I mean?
50%.
See,
Yeah.
at least 50% of the time, right? He at least gets Wednesday evenings and every other weekend, right?
Right. Or he gets to have a
If
say in, like you said, like, stuff
yeah,
dealing with
or if he can make
his doctor's
if he can make that
appointments or
work.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I'm sorry, but like that is not the same as physical custody, and nobody's talking about legal custody, a legal right to know how your child is doing in school, the legal right to, well, I mean, like we talk about it, but legal
Oh, now we lost
to
Karen
know
too.
whether
Oh,
your
there
child
you
has
are.
cancer,
Oh,
right?
and
The legal
Karen's
right
out.
to be informed of certain things pertaining to your child,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What?
You're back. You're good. You're back. We're losing some packets.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. All right, go ahead.
Okay. But what we're talking about is, the opportunity to tuck your kids into bed and, sit around the table and have dinner with them and talk about their day at school with them, and, help them learn how to ride a bike and shit like that. That's what we're talking about, hands-on parenting. And, like even dads who work long hours often do a lot of hands-on parenting. They just do. And it's like, just because he wasn't there all the time doesn't mean, or that she was present in the child's presence more often and performed more chores, does not mean that the relationship between the child and the father is meaningless. And so it's like, I just, every time I hear this argument, and the 50% of the time men get custody. Well, what that by definition means is that 50% of the time they're not even allowed to call their kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it really means, right? That they have like zero access. All right, let's hear it, like, because they're talking over each other. So let's see if this gets cleared up. I'm gonna play some more.
They win over 77% of the
No,
time.
but
90% of the cases do not even go to family court.
Yeah. No, but the question is why. And I had the same thought when I first heard it. I would ask, like, why aren't men fighting for custody? But the problem you get is the lawyers will tell them not to even fight because it's so expensive, and you have a 10%.
That's not true.
And you have a 10%.
Men don't even file the appropriate paperwork.
Why are you blaming feminism for that?
Wait, I think
The statistics and the numbers that you're thinking of and that you're talking about are from the 70s. It was from a psychologist, Dr. Gardner. He was the one who invented.
So Karen, oh yeah, yeah. So is this the one? I'll play the rest of this. So she says for Dr. Gardner, but before that, the guy says, "Why are you blaming feminism for that?"
Well,
when they go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm having problems with continuity here, so I don't know whether it's you or whether it's me.
Oh, okay. Did you miss something? What's the? Let me play the clip again. Were you not able to hear it?
It's just very choppy. It's just very choppy. So.
Okay. All right. I'll just play a little bit of it again. Here's Pearl saying, okay. I also questioned this statistic and thought men were not fighting for custody of their children.
Is the lawyers will tell them not to even fight because it's so expensive, and you have a 10%.
That's not true.
And you have a 10%.
Men don't even file the appropriate paperwork.
Why are you blaming feminism for that?
Wait, I think
the statistics and the numbers that you're thinking of and that you're talking about are from the 70s. It was from a psychologist, Dr. Gardner. He was the one who invented the term parent alienation, and he was very biased in gearing it towards women.
God,
he was later discovered.
What?
It's a good thing Monique isn't here. They actually, they slandered Gardner as a pedophile, falsely slandered him as a pedophile to discredit his work, right? Just like they did with Warren Farrell and, he's an incest apologist, right? Yeah, to discredit his work. And so, apparently parental alienation does not exist because the guy who invented the term was apparently a pedophile. Well, okay. The term gender identity doesn't exist because Dr. John Money sexually abused his patients.
Yep. Well, yeah, but of course it doesn't count then, right? So this is a pattern of using slander to discredit people and then pretending like everything they say is made up. Like there's no such thing as abandoning your child. There's no such thing as parents who are like in a divorce and like one parent uses like the legal system and essentially brainwashes their kid into thinking that the other parent doesn't like them. You know, the guy, I did an interview with him. His wife ran to Ukraine with his child, and then when he was trying to get his kid back, the Russia invaded Ukraine, and his ex-wife took his son and went into Russia and lives there, and now his son doesn't even speak English, so he can't talk to his own kid. That's not happening. That's not a thing.
Oh okay. Man, I had to, like, my divorce was, you know, I wouldn't call it, you know, combative or contentious or like particularly toxic, right? But it was not amicable. It was not 100%, you know, everything's cool and we're parting as bestest friends or anything like that. And it took me a long time to get over how he kind of made the entire process way more difficult than it had to be and way more expensive than it had to be. And I had to actually really stop myself from bad-mouthing him in front of the kids, right? Yeah. Like it was just like, but if you do that enough, you poison your children against their dad. And it's like, no, he's their dad. And so I was just like, I have to not say these. I have to say them to someone, and I will, but I'm not going to say it in front of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Alison's back. Hold on a second. I got to put you back in the scene. So, all right. Now you can talk.
Hello. I had a brownout, which, because my other setup isn't on a battery, knocked me off. So just in case we have another brownout, I changed back to this one, which I didn't do because I wanted to have access to. You guys are both face palming. I'm sorry, guys.
God, why don't we grow? I don't understand why our channel isn't huge. I just don't get it.
Well, I mean,
okay, I know.
I can't.
It is what it is.
Affect the brownout, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's just something that just happens regularly in rural Saskatchewan, and I am going to correct that by getting a battery backup for my other computer. But yeah, it's just something we have to live with. So sorry about that, guys.
You guys rely on wind energy a lot?
No, we don't. We have I think coal plants.
So we should go back a little bit so that Alice can hear the clip where they're talking about fathers getting custody of their children.
Really cannot stand this woman.
I know she's probably among the worst. The other woman's pretty bad too, though.
Yeah, but she always what I can't stand is she always has the face of a howler monkey.
Yeah, she's angry. She's angry. I you know what? If I was on the panel, I think I would just completely destroy it by just saying, "Calm down, woman." Because that really pisses women off when you say that. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Settle down, dear.
It's the nuclear reaction. If you just say, "Would you please calm down? You're being hysterical," they will lose their mind. They'll prove you right. So right. But anyway, that's the secret, guys. You want to upset a woman without having to get fouled? Just say, "Calm down," okay? And that'll just be the end. Okay, there will be Guardian articles will spring out of the woodwork. You know, there'll be all kinds of thought pieces on it. Calm down is the new misogynist far right talking point. You know, like it's just going to be all over.
And racist too.
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. All right, let's play this again. I'm going to replay it.
The statistics and the numbers that you're thinking of and that you're talking about are from the 70s. It was from a psychologist, Dr. Gardner. He was the one who invented the term parent alienation, and he was very biased in gearing it towards women. He was later discovered to also be defending pedophilia. The parent alienation has never been in any DSM, never recognized by anyone, even the World Health Organization. So more often than not, now that women are working and men are working, custody is very much split down the middle.
I want to see that fact check that popped up because Jubilee is in on this as well. So
Apologist Dr. Gardner, he was the one who invented.
All right, it says Gardner developed the theory
Apologist.
of
She said apologist, pedophile apologist.
Yeah, there was another pop-up right after this. So I'm going to read this really quick for the people that are the people who are listening. Gardner developed the theory of parental alienation syndrome, a condition in which children wrongly believe that they are being abused, and recommended courts treat the children by placing them in the custody of the parent accused of abuse. So it's just one way that they do that, by the way. But yes,
then there's another alienation.
Well, here's the thing.
He was
essentially what that means is Gardner is saying take the kids from the parent abusing them and give them to the parent who isn't.
Well, it's basically like Lygia and Vladek all over again, right? Like Lygia was the abusive one, but she was the one who was accusing. She was the only one who was accusing anyone of abuse. And so, yeah. But, the family court judge saw through it.
What I mean by that is that if you are a mother who is coaching your children to say that they're abused by their father, that is abuse.
Yeah.
Okay, so say essentially,
or convincing your children, because this is one of the horrible things, is you can actually convince your child that he or she was abused by the other parent. You can actually convince them to believe that, not just to like say it, but to genuinely believe it and form memories of it, because that's how malleable people's brains are.
Yes,
particularly when they're young.
So essentially, he's saying take the child from the parent who's abusing the child and give it to the parent who isn't, based on this particular form of child abuse. Yeah, because this is child abuse.
Sounds like a sketchy theory to me.
Yeah, it's just really sketchy.
Let's debunk it by accusing him of pedophilia, okay? And then all of a sudden, that thing that he said can't possibly be true. What are you, a pedophile apologist too?
Yeah, just use a false accusation to shut them down and get your way.
Well, just because you accuse some women of having Munchausen's by proxy doesn't mean children don't get cancer.
All right, let's play the rest of this. I want to see the other pop-up.
Very biased in gearing it towards women. He was later discovered to also be defending pedophilia. The parent alienation has never been in any DSM, never recognized by anyone, even the World Health Organization. So more often than not, now that women are working and men are working, custody is very much split down the middle.
Who gets the custody the majority of the time, men or women?
So men who fight for custody actually are far more likely to get it.
To get back to the question, I found the question somewhat too vague. I mean, do feminists want to erase masculinity?
Thank you, Blue Orange.
It's kind of too abstract and vague to answer. So my problem is when feminists try and redefine masculinity, or they try and say this is our interpretation of toxic masculinity as we see it. That's kind of the problem that I have. I don't like it when feminists tell men how they should feel, how they're supposed to feel. This is how your experience as a man is supposed to go. And that is where I would have the issue with that.
I would say that, yeah. So people say, oh, masculine, like men are all supposed to be masculine and women are always supposed to be feminine, as if there's no overlap. While there may be differences between.
Blue Orange makes a salient point. Now we shall experience 5 minutes of blather.
Yeah, right. But people say everything 100% this. No, nobody says that. Literally, nobody says that. Nobody says that. Nobody says you have to be a man all the time 100% and this is how it's nobody says that. Who are you talking about? Like, you get out of college. It's melting your brain. It's like your brain is like a pat of butter on like a hot pancake. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Okay.
Between men and women are average. A lot of times those effect sizes are pretty small, and to have a society where we have this rigid, like, you're a woman, therefore this is the best job for you. You're a man, so this is the best job for you. That's not how you have a
very rigid attitude that men are to blame, and men have constructed society. Like, the thing is that, okay, so everything is arbitrary. The roles are arbitrary. Fair enough. Why have men decided to take the role that results in 3 to 4 to 5 times more death?
Yeah.
Like the roles are arbitrary and men assign them that, therefore they assign themselves to the role that dies 5 times more often.
Yeah.
Really. And that because they hate women. Okay. Yeah. Well, all of this falls apart. Like I said, it's blatherskite. Okay. Does the blather end at any point?
All right. Yeah. I'm going to jump ahead to the plan because
I do want to.
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I do want to say that that the overlap that she's talking about is not what she thinks it is. There's a beautiful article on PLOS One, I think it's called. It's a like free research website, right? Open source research website called "The Distance Between Venus and Mars," and
it's a lot.
Global. I think it's called global. The subtext is called global differences, global sex differences in personality. And what they found was that when you amalgamate all these sort of subtraits into like one of the big 5, sometimes 6 core traits, like extroversion, right? Okay, so extroversion is a big 5 trait, and then there's another 5, agreeableness, and some of the others, right? That you find that men and women are basically the same. There's almost no difference, right? But then when you look at the fact that in women, extroversion expresses primarily in warmth and affiliation, whereas in men it more often expresses as social dominance and assertiveness and venturesomeness, right? Then like those are nothing alike. I mean, they are all forms of extroversion of
right. So what you're saying is
with other people, but
right. So what you're saying is there's a lot of similarity in the big 5 between men and women, but the context is worlds apart, like where where that happens.
What they found was that when they actually broke it down into like looking at the individual subtraits, they found that there was only about a 24% overlap between men and women's personalities. And then when they removed the single, okay, and this is going to shock all of you guys, right? The single biggest difference, the single biggest subtrait difference, sensitivity, emotional sensitivity. When they removed that, they found that that there was it was 10% overlap. When they removed sensitivity, there was a 24% overlap, right? So you're looking at a situation where men and women are really like across all of these traits. They're nothing alike. I'm sorry, they're just not. And yes, everything happens on a curve, right? But within sexes and those curves overlap. But you have to be more sensitive than 17 more sensitive than 83% of men, right? In order to be as sensitive as the average woman, as the median woman. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but there's just it's not. This is none of this is. But then again, they play with the statistics. They play with the numbers. Oh, we're going to bundle all of these traits: assertiveness, venturesomeness, dominance, warmth, and affiliation, all into this big category of extroversion. It's just a big melting pot. And yeah, because men and women are equally extroverted, we can say they're the same.
Yeah, exactly. So they're the same, but not really, because again, in a certain context, men and women are going to be very, very different. So, and yeah, I think that the big 5 thing is, well, let's jump into the next bit, because this is where it gets really horticultural. So let's play this.
In my experience, I feel like when it comes to redefining masculinity, that's not even a real concept. We need to abolish gender as a whole, because the ideas that's pretty much raising the whole masculine, that's not even a real concept. Feminine is not a real concept. These are just things that were designed long ago by people who aren't here.
You want to abolish gender?
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not real. It's a human construct.
If the complaint.
Yeah, men lives matter is like what?
Well, let's just flatten everything and become like gray blobs that are completely featureless, and then we'll finally have equality.
Yeah.
We'll find like that's the only way. We just have to stop being human.
And also, they're not doing anything of the sort. They're not actually fundamentally questioning anything about gender. They think they are, but they're not, because they still put men in a position of accountability and women in a position of blamelessness. So they're still supporting a very, very strict gender dynamic, and they don't have the mental faculties to even analyze it, to be honest. From what I can see, they just don't have the deconstructive ability to really understand what gender is. And yet they espouse all this nonsense about how we're going to live in a genderless world, except men will still be to blame for patriarchy.
Yep.
Yeah.
It won't change anything.
It won't change anything.
And of course, like he'll say there's no such thing as femininity. But remember, when he came in here, this plant guy, Ariel, he basically said women, and then when it came to women, he was like, here are all the problems women have. When it came to men, he was like, there's no such thing as a man. It doesn't exist. So he is still operating within a binary, and he is still acknowledging the existence of women as a victim group and men as an oppressor group, regardless. So
he's probably taking an identity out of the idea that he is saving women from their problems.
Of course he is.
How is that different than the traditional masculine identity?
Yeah, well, and then of course when men finally are convinced by these feminists to completely dismantle patriarchy, and the entire fucking world goes to shit because we got rid of masculinity and made everybody equal, and everything just falls apart, and nobody's attracted to anybody anymore, right? What are they going to do? They're going to blame men for like doing what they wanted.
They're going to blame men for not stepping in and doing something about the like a woman who does something absolutely insane and a man lets her, and then like she almost dies or something, and he's like, why'd you do that? And she was like, why'd you let me? That's basically what it's going to be. Men are going to be blamed for not stopping it, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like,
you know I'm crazy. Why'd you let this happen?
Yeah, I'll think that they're actually challenging gender roles when they stop blaming men for everything.
Yeah.
But that moment when they're like, wait a second, maybe actually women should be accountable to something. That's the moment I'll think they're really challenging gender roles. Until then, they're just supporting them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So this guy, let's see where it goes from here. So some other male feminists on the other side. Oh, I'm sorry. Non-male gray blob guy on the other side acknowledged that this gray blob said about men. So the gray blobs are in agreements with each other.
Well, complaint is that feminists, which aren't synonymous with women, obviously we have two male feminists right here. If the complaint is that feminists want to reconstruct a new idea of masculinity that is actually healthy, that allows men to realize when they are victims.
Oh God!
Wait! Go back again. I'm sorry, I laughed. They want to construct a new version of masculinity. What was that? What was that?
The new man, Allison. I'm sorry to bring it back to commie shit, but the social man, the socialist new man.
Brian,
no, I know, but that's the frame. That's the frame that they're bringing up when they talk about that.
The old man, like
All right, let's play it. Let's play it.
Same as the old man.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not real. It's a human construct.
If the complaint is that feminists, which aren't synonymous with women, obviously we have two male feminists right here. If the complaint is that feminists want to reconstruct a new idea of masculinity that is actually healthy, that allows men to realize when they are victims, when they are going through things like depression or suicidal or alienation.
What MRAs do?
Parental alienation?
That's what MRAs do. Jesus Christ. MRAs do this every fucking day. Every day. Parental alienation is primarily a male victim kind of abuse, right? And
false accusations.
Yeah, false accusations, right? Divorce rape, right? Like all of these things. It's like I'm sorry, but men can't acknowledge. They just need to be able to acknowledge that they're victims. And then what?
Well, yeah, but then again, like the entirety of feminist scholarship around things like domestic violence is minimizing male
victims. Yeah,
as men aren't victims, and if they are victims, they deserved it. Like literally, that's the entirety of feminist scholarship around male victims of domestic violence is to minimize, reduce, and excuse that they were actually the ones who deserved it, and the violence was retributive on the part of the woman. Even if she's the only one who hits in the entire relationship, it was the man's fault somehow.
Oh yeah, no, this is one of the things too, because I had actually a friend of mine say, well, you know, when I was discussing the neighbors, right, and how they're having a fight, she's screaming at him, she picks a fight, she's screaming at him, he's begging her to stop, please just calm down, we can talk about this later, there's a baby in the house, right, and you know, he's just going from room to room to room, right, and closing the door, and she's following him, so he's trying to remove himself from the situation but not leave his baby alone with this psycho, right? Okay, and then finally after like 45 minutes or an hour of this, he hits her once, and she's throwing shit, like you can hear shit hitting the walls. I think they had to drywall the whole place after those two moved out, right? And so she's being extremely violent. He hits her once, right? And then it just goes silent. And then like 20 minutes later, they're out with the baby in the stroller, right? Having a walk, because I guess they settled it, right? And he needed to do that to calm her the fuck down. And so I'm telling my friend this, and she says, oh, she was just trying to diffuse his violence, right? To trigger his violence before it built up to a lethal rage, right? Right? So she was just trying to diffuse him, like a bit by bit by bit, because if she didn't do that, right, then, you know, he would just get angrier and angrier and angrier for like months, and then he'd like beat her to death for no reason.
Yeah, that's absurd. That sounds like excuse making. It's like
oh, you think?
Yeah. The woman is doing everything she can to instigate violence, and when it finally happens, it's because she wanted to diffuse him. No, it's because, as Aaron Pizzi said, she wanted the violence, because people who have these experiences, these diverse childhood experiences, can become addicted to the emotions surrounding violence. And it's an ugly thing. It doesn't excuse domestic violence, but it's a thing that happens. And until, like, I think it was Deborah Pony. Was it Deborah Pony who talks about how women have to take responsibility for their violence because it is the biggest predictor for being aggressed against. And
Aaron Pizzi brought that up. Maybe Deborah Pony too, but Aaron Pizzi for sure.
No,
but even getting it away from that's like that isn't that we don't even have to talk about men who hit at all, who actually engage in mutual violence, especially mutual violence after the woman has done something like that they've been violent for half an hour, they've been instigating for half an hour. We can just talk about men who do nothing, absolutely nothing. And feminists are saying that those men are to blame for the violence they can experience. So in what capacity do feminists recognize male victimhood at all? In what capacity? Put your money where your mouth is, dude, because right now what it sounds like is you're like, oh, well, I don't want them to realize the truth of feminism. And this is a good thing, supposedly. So I'm going to claim that feminism does it for no other reason than because I am an adherent to this particular ideology. Well, put your money where your mouth is, right? Put it where your mouth is. The only feminist initiative I have ever heard for male victims of domestic violence, the woman specifically said, I did this because I wanted to shout down men's rights activists who say feminists don't do this. So that feminist initiative for male victims of domestic violence, you can thank us for it.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't have done it otherwise. And every other initiative for male victims, men's rights advocates, men's issues advocates, people who are concerned about men and often get labeled by the same broad brush that we do, men's rights activists, misogynists, etc. Every initiative that I have heard of for men has been either shut down by feminists, in some cases using violence, or it has been blocked in terms of funding by feminists. Feminists have absolutely no interest in men's issues or men's victimhood. Okay, they have none because it dries up their money.
Yep. Okay, I got a super chat from Senor Sticks. He says for $2, Karen, Alison, are you questioning male feminists? How dare you question your betters, ladies? Do you not know that they understand the world better than like any like women that aren't in lockstep with feminists? All right, thank you for that, Senior Six. I haven't gotten any super chows, but I will say a lot of people are watching on the vertical. I don't know if you see
I noticed
that.
That's hello, vertical people.
Hello, verticals. Hello, people watching on mobile devices.
Confused comment.
Yeah, you're going to be like, what is going on here?
Who are these people? We had one confused comment like yesterday who was like, are these people, I can't tell if they're far right misogynists or radical feminazis. I'm like, maybe we're neither. Maybe we're like a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I don't know. I think that radical feminists is a little bit of a stretch, but
yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, go ahead. Welcome to the chat. Feel free to post whatever.
And also feel free to visit some websites like the Canadian Centre for Men and Families and see what men's rights activists actually do in the real world.
I don't think they would defer them. They are called men's rights activists, but I don't think that the Canadian Centre for Families would call themselves.
Canadian Centre for Men and Families does not call itself men's rights activists, but they are advocates for men and for
what they do is more important than how they identify.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if you're interested in men's rights activists, just stay tuned and listen to us. If you're interested in people who are working on men's issues aside from like the stuff that we do, which is more about the social sphere, more about recognition of how men's identities are being maligned in the current era. But yeah, if you want to look at like shelters, and we talk to them regularly about their initiatives. So once again, Center for Men and Families in Canada. Canadian Center for Men and Families. Okay. All right.
For Men and Families.
All right, let's keep going with this because now Vin Diesel here is going to get involved. So,
every day is saying that this is what a man should be. The thing, men don't deal with their emotions the same way women do.
Because they're not taught to from childhood. Because you're a boy, you get a truck. You're a girl, you get a doll. You're going to be good at cooking.
How is it that women's standard became?
Go get the army soldiers.
Oh God, she's so obnoxious. She just talked over him. I know that what he wanted to say because he works with men. He's Canadian, works with men, and basically, we've talked about this before. Women heal face to face, men heal side by side, and basically, he's just saying, this is the way men do shit. And frankly, everything we have set up to help people is not really geared towards men's specific needs. It's basically treating men like broken women, just like schools treat boys like broken girls.
Yeah. It's not even geared to women's needs, to be honest. It's geared to using women as a perpetual source of income. But what I was going to say is she's assuming that the default is feminine, because I don't hear her saying, well, women should maybe adopt men's ways of dealing with mental health issues. And honestly, like when you look at when you look at the studies, men actually have better coping strategies. But here's the big news flash: they're coping with more.
Yeah,
they're coping with more, and you can see it in the statistics around workplace death in like the military, all kinds of stuff, and also domestic violence and having no freaking services for that, or rape. So they're coping with more stuff, but their coping is actually better than women's.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But the best, of course, is people who can do both styles when it's appropriate. So, I mean, she could say, well, maybe girls need to cope the way boys do. But no,
maybe girls need to put on some big boy pants and toughen up a little.
Maybe women need to man up. No, she doesn't say that. She says women are the gold standard. Men need to become that. That this isn't getting rid of gender. This is getting rid of men.
Yeah.
Like when they say let's get rid of gender, no, they mean let's just get rid of men.
Yeah.
But blame them at the same time. So if you do get rid of men, who do you blame?
Well, it was the men because they sucked. That's why we had to get rid of them.
So we have to keep blaming them for generation and generation and generation and take no responsibility, even though there are no men around.
All right, let's play some more of the video.
That's why.
Basically,
Do you think you have the special answer of the right way to tell the kids?
Of course she does.
Yeah.
No.
Do
you? No.
Yeah.
No, I
I think when you let a child, when you look at having children as I'm bringing independent, thinking little humans into this world, and I want them to grow into whoever they are meant to be, whatever that is, whether it's a male ballerina or a female NFL coach. I want this little person that I love so much to be whatever they want to be.
But no one's arguing with that.
Okay, so here's
yeah, right. No one is saying, "Oh no, you! How dare you? Your son is going to be a football player if it kills the both of you." Nobody's saying that.
No one. But yeah, and again, this is more blather. This is more like Hallmark, like ejaculating Hallmark bullshit. You know, and then it's like, well, okay, when do we get to the actual problem?
When do we get to the actual bukkake part?
All right. Well, yeah. No, get this. This is a good answer here. So we'll play. I think Blue Orange said this. So.
What I think. I agree that people should not be locked into a role either way. I think that if you took 10 million men and 10 million women and you tracked them over 10 years, you might see certain trends emerge. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be this or you have to be that. People should be free to be whatever they want. But I do think that you would see certain trends emerge. Now,
like what might some of those be?
Well, you might see, on average, boys are more likely to play with G.I. Joes and girls are more likely to play with Barbies.
Okay,
sorry, girls.
I mean, is it just me, or does this conversation need to be elevated a lot more than it is?
How much do you want to bet this bitch in the maroon dress, right, doesn't have kids, right?
Like, I would take that bet.
I have
actually, we're gonna get an answer to that in this video. Okay. It does come up. Should I jump ahead a bit? Let me see.
No. But I want to make a point. All right, I want to make a point. I have 3 kids, okay, and my daughter, right? I had a son first. Right. And we bought him the toy cars and the Legos and the toy trains and all of that stuff. Right. And he loved that stuff and all of that. And Rachel was born and she played with all of that stuff, too. And she was happy to play with it. And she still, like all the way through her childhood would still play with these kind of boy toys. Right. But when she first, and she was a late talker, when she first learned how to talk and ask for things, the first Christmas that she was able to actually ask for things, presents. What did she want? Polly Pocket. Polly Pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she wanted, right? And it was like, I thought she was just perfectly happy, just playing with all of these like bulldozers and stuff like that I had for Jack, because she loved them. She really did love playing with them. But she had this other side of her, and it was a side of her that was interested in fashion and, and girls doing things together and tea parties and all that stuff. And she just couldn't communicate it to me because she lacked the verbal skills at the time. So I'm like, yeah, no, you see these trends emerge in your own children, even if you raise them exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Can I just point something out here? I feel like the actual question has been lost, because the question before the court is, does feminism want to remove masculinity or get rid of masculinity? How much of this entire panel discussion has actually dealt with that question? Because it feels like we've gone into these two women blathering about something else that had nothing to do with the question. Blue Orange brought it back to the question, or is this a different question?
No, it's still the same. It's the same statement.
So we're going nowhere on this question.
Well, the feminists don't want to answer questions. So the two male feminists, they basically said, I think what the two male feminists, they said that if you think changing masculinity to be more healthy and good as opposed to the evil masculinity that I guess is the normal masculinity, then yes, they're not trying to remove it. They're trying to change it and make it better. So that's what the male feminists said. So they did have an answer. Their answer was, we're trying to make it better. We like, it's bad masculinity now. We can make it good. The new man, the new social man. That's what they want to make. And this guy, Bizarro Brendio or whatever, the plant, he's saying, well, there is no such thing as masculinity. And the bald Vin Diesel guy basically said that, here are the positive things about masculinity. He essentially says, protect your provider, you have courage, you have faith, etc. I skipped over that because I know people are going to get mad at the TradCon argument, but that is his argument. And I think Blue Orange basically said, look, men and women are different. Things are just going to... So they all had answers. It's just the feminists didn't like those answers. So,
but what did the feminists say? The feminists say no.
They said they are not trying to remove it. They're trying to make it better.
Okay,
it's broken. Okay. We want to fix it.
Yeah, but wouldn't that be removing traditional masculinity and replacing it with whatever they think? And then they go on and they say, well, there is no gender.
Yes.
But of course, she uses women and girls as the baseline. So she recognizes that women and girls and the way that they do things are valid, and that men and boys should do that way. So in essence, the woman in the red has answered the question. And the answer to the question of whether or not feminism wants to remove masculinity is yes.
Yeah.
They do, obviously. They want to they want to recreate it. They want to burn it down and then build something new from the ashes.
Yesterday I said, are these feminists going to be an object lesson? Are they going to answer the question, or are they going to be an object lesson of the truth of the assertion? Are they going to answer the question, does feminism want to remove masculinity, or are they going to demonstrate that it does, essentially? And they demonstrated it.
Yeah. I got a super chat from Richard Bier for $5. He says, wouldn't you rather be responding to something from Manifestel? Thank you, Richard.
No, it actually has, I don't know. Manifestel is terrifying.
I don't know what
you don't want to know, Karen.
You don't want to know, Karen.
It's a vacuous abyss. But this is actually, at least there's something here that we can chew on and talk about.
Okay. It's a vacuous abyss with an alarming amount of influence.
Yeah, it does have an alarming, but Jubilee is coming out. They got like 9.5 million.
Is this the Twitch streamer that you're talking about that spends 90% of the time responding to
that's Shira. Yeah, that's Shira. Just as bad though.
Yeah.
In her own way. But like that, yeah. Those are all from the female dating strategy Reddit or whatever. So
you know about the female dating strategy Reddit, right?
Oh. You mean chase him until he catches you?
No, it's actually not even that cute. They're horrifying lizards. Okay, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going. So this guy, okay, let's just play it from here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a real concept. Femininity is not a real concept.
Aren't you a men's rights activist?
I'm a men's rights activist, but that's just the other same side of the same side. It's called same side of feminism. I believe in destroying the patriarchy. I believe in destroying
wait. He's a men's rights activist. He just doesn't believe in men.
Yeah, he doesn't believe in men. He wants to destroy the patriarchy. He's totally like us. Like he's not. This isn't like a weird bizarro thing at all. Like he's me am men's rights activist. me am destroy patriarchy.
Oh man. I don't know what I would have done.
If you would have been on there, they would have gotten rid of Blue Orange. It would have been you. It would have been because I can just
helped. I don't know if I would have been able to do anything with this.
I would have told him. I would have said on the show, you should go sit with them because obviously you're not on this side. Like honestly.
I think at this point I might have said to him, you're a men's rights activist, but you don't believe men exist.
Yeah, right. Well, I just want to abolish everything. Like, I mean, like when you say you want to when you say you want to abolish the concept of gender, doesn't that mean you just want to abolish like everything that it is that makes us human? Like, what's left after that? Like, that's where we start. That's Adam and Eve. That's the beginning. whatever you want to call it, right? The genesis of human life, right? And you want to say, well, that's not real. Well, then there's nothing. Like there's nothing else. You've just eliminated everything. I can just be like, well, yeah, race isn't real. You know, ancestry isn't real. Parenthood isn't real. Money isn't real. Food's not real. None of this is real. Let's just photosynthesize each other, spread pollen everywhere, and not even talk. What even is language? What is talking to people? What is that? That seems like a waste of time to me. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but this guy's gonna off. He's gonna off himself in 10 years if he doesn't get his shit straight, because he's gonna become a super nihilist.
So please,
I guarantee it.
Please get your shit straight, guys.
Yeah.
And don't do that, because
Stop avoiding reality. Stop avoiding reality. You can't talk things out of existence.
Okay.
You have to deal with it. Okay. So anyway, this guy applauds that, which is extra sad. Like who is more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows? Huh?
His applause was so quiet.
Well, you don't want to trigger anybody. I mean, like what he should be doing is snapping his fingers. We all know that, right? So
snap.
Okay. Anyway.
Gender. I agree with everything you're saying, because the ideas that you guys are talking about with how men are emasculated, not allowed to cry, or people think their emotions aren't valid. I agree with all that. That's not women's fault, and those aren't even like masculine traits. These are all.
I wonder why. Geez, that's a surprise.
No, it's not women's fault. It's the non-gender specific group that isn't women. That's their fault, right? Because I don't believe in gender, but I believe in women, but I don't believe in gender.
Am I not expressing the true fundamental distinction?
I blame the gray blobs
between men and women, which is that men take responsibility for stuff and women don't. And I expect men to take responsibility for stuff. Like, seriously, he's saying, I don't believe in gender, but definitely men should take responsibility for gender. Like, okay. All right. Well,
J'accuse.
Well, and the whole stupid thing about like, oh, you know, and if they just like learned how to cry, and it's like, okay, how about this? How about we just give them less to cry about?
No.
Right? And leave them alone to deal with their shit, their emotions, the way that they want.
No, we can't do that. Because that would be recognizing that men can have external forces acting on them. Yeah. Like that things can happen to men. And that is not the case. Things can't happen to men, because everything that happens to a man, everything that happens to a man is something that he chose to have happen or chose to become a victim of. There is nothing outside of the agency of men. And also, I completely disagree with gender. Gender doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, technically, gender doesn't exist. Sex does, but we'll I know what he's like. You make something up, and then you make up a thing that counters the thing that you made up, and then you say you won because you came up with the best thing that you made up that counters the other shit that was already made up. Like gender is John Money and Kinsey, and it's not men and women, but they use the words interchangeably so that they can essentially erase the identities of men and women as well, which is what they are doing.
I get what you're saying. I totally get it.
Yeah.
So they make up
but
the
at
concept
the same time,
and then they destroy that concept.
If you're a biological female, but you identify more with the masculine, it's time to lop your tits off and cut a big swath of skin off your arm.
Pop some testosterone pills.
Yeah,
because which again, the concept doesn't make sense again, because in order to believe in trans people, then you have to believe in the idea of a binary. Yeah, of a binary, so that you can go from one to the other based on sex. Exactly. And I would have confronted him on that. I would like, so do you not believe trans people exist? And because like again, like just using their own tools against them, it's ridiculous. But anyway.
Oh, somebody in the vertical chat has said, I don't know what side you guys are on, and I've listened for 10 minutes. Okay, we're on the side of common sense, right? That I don't know.
As Pierre Poilievre says, common sense.
Yeah, we're just on the side of common sense. So every time someone says something that doesn't make any goddamn sense, we say that doesn't make any goddamn sense. And also, you're an idiot. That's what we do.
Yeah, he says, okay, I think I'm with you. Well, thank you. Jonathan Latman, and appreciate your look. The thing is, overall, I'm on the side of the men's rights side of this conversation. I think we all are. But this plant is not helping at all. And, I mean, that's really it. I haven't really had criticisms of Montreal Vin Diesel or Blue Orange or Pearl. I mean, actually, Pearl I praise because she's at least like saying, you guys are like, none of this makes sense. What are we doing? And I appreciate that. But the feminists are basically like a lost cause. Like there's just no hope.
Well, there's nothing there. They're just blathering. Like there's just empty noise coming out of their whole face hole.
It sounds like empty noise because you've heard it all before.
Yeah, right. Okay. This is new to you if you haven't heard it before. Okay, let's play it. Let's play this.
Just ideas that were just fed to us by the patriarchy, and we need to destroy it.
But then why are you a men's rights activist?
Only because I feel like this side understandably has a lot of bad actors and grifters.
Let's stop here for a second.
Well, they have a lot of bad actors and grifters, guys. That's why he's joined. He's trying to balance the beam with his gender abolition.
Nobody uses men's issues to grift. They're like the most difficult,
unpopular
and difficult thing to sell. And we know that from confessions of Oxfam and even feminist organizations that have said, when you bring in male victims, the funds dry up. So this is a very difficult thing to sell, is the idea that we should care about men.
You can't grift on an unpopular position. If we wanted to grift, we'd all make feminist content.
You've got like a huge number of male rape victims in the Congo, right? Huge number. And, a large number of female victims as well. And some of the female victims are victims of women, and also some of the male victims. And often the male victims, like there's fewer male victims because most of the time they rape them and then they cut their junk off, stuff it in their mouth and throw them down a well. So they don't actually survive the experience as often as women do. But you have organizations like Oxfam saying if you allocate more than 20% of the funds to these NGOs on the ground, if you allocate more than 20%
30%
of the funds,
actually, I think
it was 20% way back
20%.
when.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
that's even worse.
To male victims, then we're not funding your organization anymore. Right? So when a man goes in with a perforated anus, right, like a perforated rectum, and like he's had sharp instruments inserted in him, he's fecally incontinent, he's bleeding out his butthole, and all of this, and he goes into the doctor, and what does the doctor do? Gives him T3 and Prozac, and sends him away because that's the best he can do.
Because they can't treat male victims of rape in the Congo, because if they treat too many, they lose their funding. This is what men's issues advocates are up against. So the idea that we're
grifters, that we're grifting for cash.
No, absolutely not. In fact, one of the disturbing things about the so-called advocacy for women is one day I just looked at the numbers and I saw the absolute state of money sluicing through these organizations and ending up in the pockets of the board members and the CEO. And it was just unbelievable. So you'd see like $1 million total budget for an organization, and the services were something like maybe 50,000 for a year. And it was insane. And I'm like,
feminist orgs get CIA money and fucking
but
government funds all the time.
Yeah, no, but they're grifting. Victims. They're actually making themselves rich.
Female victims to make money. If you actually look at the proportion of people who genuinely care for men and the issues that men face, I think men may actually have more people that genuinely care about them in this sphere than women do.
In the advocacy sphere,
in the advocacy sphere, because it's crowded on the women's side with people who just want to rake in the sluice of money.
Yeah, and there is no money to be made. I mean, like I think my best month when my YouTube channel was at its peak, and I had 300 and some thousand subscribers, and it was fully the ad
monetized.
revenue, fully monetized. and I had just put out like I think 3 videos that month, and they got a lot of views. And that month I brought in like $2,500.
Yeah, and that was ad revenue. Like we don't get any.
Yeah.
Like, we get $10 a month. We are able to keep going because of support from people who are interested in this stuff and want some, they want to know that they're not insane. But I mean, but it's not something that it's not something that you can, like, for example, there's one feminist NGO that does this, and she does, I think, a seminar once a month and does referrals. And she has $750,000 or something, or $500,000 in terms of total budget for that. And it's insane what they're getting away with.
Yeah,
and
no,
people want to help women.
Sitting on the board of like the senior board member or director of a women's shelter in Canada, domestic violence shelter in Alberta, rather, is her salary, like what she pulls in, is $250,000 a month to just be the director, be like kind of the top tier manager who, directs the lower tier management staff in what they need to do. And so she's got a cushy job. Being on a board of directors is not a difficult thing. That's why so many of the golden skirts manage to sit on like 7 or 8 boards of directors at one time, because it doesn't occupy a whole lot of your time, right? But it's like $250,000 a year these women are making, and yet, like, you got CCFM and their men's shelters, and they're having to like beg for donations to just buy like crib mattresses and disposable diapers and for the men and kids who come into their shelter.
Trottier is really devoted to this work.
Yeah,
he's not doing it because he's getting a huge amount of money. He can live just like me and Brian can live, but none of us are getting like a huge amount of money from any of this.
And I don't really get any money from this, like, to speak of. I'm only able to do this because my husband makes good money now, right?
Yeah.
So,
this is like, let's keep going.
Yeah, I got a super chow and a super chat I want to read, and then we'll keep going. So, Ho Ao, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you. Says for $5, patriarchy, female oppression, of all the things that have never happened, this has never happened the most. Thank you. And then Senior Sticks gives us $2 and says, this is a super chat, that plant might be a trans man because sounds sus. Yeah, you know what? I thought about that. I was like, what if this is a trans man? Because they do tend to look like to have that kind of body type.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it sounds mean, but
you get the hourglass before you transition, and you're stuck with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't. For me, it doesn't really matter anyway. But it would strengthen the argument further that, like, transitioning or being trans is affirming the binary, right?
Yeah.
So,
I think the shoulders are too broad, though.
Yeah, he's probably just like a schlubby dude. All right, so let's listen to more.
There aren't a lot of people on this side who thoroughly align themselves with feminists. I have a lot of friends who are feminists. I align myself with most trans feminists and feminists of color.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, I have friends that are feminists, therefore I have to be a feminist. Like, well, what if your friends are wrong?
I align myself.
What if they're wrong?
Well, no, if you have friends who are feminists and you don't want to lose them, you're definitely going to align with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because, like my husband, when he was living in some freaking co-op with a bunch of hippie chicks when he was in university, he'd just read The Myth of Male Power. And he sat down with one of them and he was like, oh, like, what do you think? Like, does this patriarchy thing actually really exist the way we think it does? And, there's a lot of problems men have. And she just basically cut him off right then and there and said, if you can't accept the existence of the patriarchy, then we can't have a conversation ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here is the one, like, the one fatal problem with patriarchy. Throughout all of human history and around the world, if men are responsible for assigning the roles between men and women, why did men, hating women, assign themselves the role in which they die?
The harshest role.
The harshest role in which they die 4 to 5 times more. Like, why? Either men don't have control over that, or they do have control over that and they are choosing to sacrifice themselves instead of women. And also the best argument against patriarchy, conjecture.
The patriarchy. You have to call it the patriarchy, because patriarchy is actually a system that,
with a TM at the end. A TM.
Yeah, you have to use the
biggest argument against patriarchy conjecture, I'm going to call it patriarchy conjecture, is that it has never been proven. In fact, it hasn't even gone through the first step of being proven true or false, which is to frame the conjecture in a way that can be proven true or false.
Yeah. You actually have to create a hypothesis and then a method for falsifying it or proving it. And that's never been done. It's all just observational, cherry-picked observational data that a bunch of freaking lunatic women, and some of those women in the early days of women's studies back in like the late 1970s, early 80s, Sally Miller Gerhardt and Mary Daly and whoever, right? Andrea Dworkin and all of those people, right? You look at some of the shit that comes out of their mouth, and it's just like, it's as if they picked these women out of the rooms in a mental asylum, right, and handed them a fake PhD and said, do something with it. Their ideas were so insane, but they were edgy and cool, and they really ramped people up, and they got the donations pouring in and ring fenced all the funding, and and it's just like, there's no proof for the Duluth model of domestic violence. There's no proof for rape or
there's
sexual
anti-proof for the Duluth model.
For coerced sex to be a directionally gendered. There's no proof for any of that. There's plenty of disconfirming evidence. There's been disconfirming evidence all along. They just chose not to look at it, right? And they just cherry picked from history certain things, and it was all about power. And anyone who tells me that feminism isn't about power and isn't about money, they can go blow it out their butthole, because the first suffragettes were upper class women who were saying, why can't I have a prestigious career like my father, right? As a barrister or as a politician. They weren't saying, why can't I work in a coal mine like my husband?
Okay, let's try to get a bit more done. Hopefully not more blather, but I'm guessing that it's going to be more blather.
All right, let's keep going. You're just going to have to endure the blather, Alison. That's like what if we're going to respond to videos, they're going to be at this. They're going to be operating at this level. This is the level we're at right now, and this is where it's been for decades, and that's just what it is. So unless we get a debate, like there's a reason why Camille Paglia is not on this panel debating this. There's a reason why you're not seeing like Pearl is on here. I'm not even trying to like, what do you call it? Shoot the fade with Pearl or anything, but like she's there because she's a popular influencer, not because she's an intellectual powerhouse that's gonna like deliver the goods. You're not gonna see a Janice Fiamengo on these panels. You're not gonna be, because she would destroy everyone. They wouldn't even be ready. It would be like going into a fucking Call of Duty lobby with like some 12-year-old Korean kid. He would like 1v everybody at once, like just destroy everybody, right?
Well,
so
I could have been on this, but...
you could have been on this. Maybe you'll have another opportunity. But what I'm saying is, this is the level that we're operating at, because this is like, and this is getting millions and millions of views. So I think that it's important that we try to elevate this turd to some degree. So
the reason why I'm mostly on this side is honestly just because I can sympathize with the plight of most men not feeling valid and not feeling heard. And I think that should be talked about. The problem is the people who are leading that conversation tend to be folks who are still rooted in the concept of gender. And I think
Okay,
that's
but
detrimental to
yes,
the movement.
because they're men's advocates.
Because they're men.
You sort of have to recognize what you're advocating for before you can advocate for it. Like, what? I don't believe men exist, but I'm a men's rights advocate. Okay, his entire presence on this panel he's like the essence of blather, formed into a human shape.
Yep.
Like,
it's a gray blob, but yes, a gray blobby shape that's vaguely humanoid. He's like the thing from beyond.
And it's not an insult. That's the way he wants to be perceived.
No, I know. I'm not insulting him. Yeah, like I said, if gender means nothing, then his words mean nothing too. And so he's like, I got to lean into that. So I'm going to say a bunch of shit that doesn't mean anything and then pretend like I made an argument. And you all should do it with me. We should all do this together. We should all say nothing. Be all about the nonsense.
This is the culture of blather. It's not even woke or social justice. It's just tea tums and blather.
Okay, let's keep going.
And when you think about it, feminists and men's rights activists could work together.
I agree.
No, we're fucking rich. It's been 40 fucking years. Oh, well, we're willing to work together now.
You know what? If I was
years of vilification, of villainization, of demonization, of slander, of
violent attacks,
calling
protesting,
the guy who actually identified that some, mostly women, some parents, mostly mothers, alienate their child from the other parent. Okay. And it goes both ways because some men do it too, right? And we've been screaming into the fucking wind for 40 years with their feminist boot on our necks, right? And now, now we'll be nice. Now we're willing to listen. Yeah, no, this is like when me and my sisters were fighting in the backseat of the car. We were on like a single lane highway, right? And my dad had just passed like 20 fucking Winnebagos. We're on a road trip, right? And we're fucking with each other in the back seat. We're like just annoying each other, and he's just getting madder and madder. And mom's telling us to stop it. And then he finally fucking pulls over, right? And we're like, oh, we'll be good now. Yeah, no. He's like, you see all those? Those are all the Winnebagos. I'm going to have to pass again on this windy, curvy mountain road. So you know what? You're all going to fucking get it.
Yeah, and I don't believe it.
Like, yeah, no, I don't believe it either. Because we wouldn't have, if we hadn't got it, we would have been back to it 5 minutes after he started the car again.
If feminists genuinely wanted to work, you don't even have to work with us. Just get out of our way and leave us alone. Stop getting in our way. We don't need your help. We need your indifference. Just go and say, oh, feminism isn't for men. Good. Go away. Leave us alone. Jesus Christ, we don't need your help. We need
Look, Alison, feminists and men's rights activists can totally work together. The only thing holding us back is that men's rights activists aren't doing everything feminists say. And if you just let them take charge and basically control everything, then we'll figure out how we can make this all work. Yeah, maybe in another 100 years, right?
Every single possible woman, when we framed every issue any person can have in terms of how women are harmed by it, will eventually help men. Maybe.
Yeah, we'll get to it. Just sit back and we gotta take care of women first. We're not done with that.
Once there's no longer a single fucking girl, right, in the hills of fucking Nepal whose genitals were mutilated, right? Okay, once that no longer happens anywhere in the world, okay, then we can get to circumcision.
Of boys. Okay, all right, this is bullshit. And it's bullshit because feminism isn't an advocacy group. It's a sales pitch. It's a sales pitch for people to save women. And it's an effective sales pitch. And this isn't their fault. It's the fault of everyone else because we want to save women. Saving women motivates people because we have this sort of genetic memory that women and their situation needs to be improved and protected so we can have children as a society, so we can perpetuate ourselves. So selling the idea that women are in trouble and need to be saved is a great sales pitch. And that's what feminism is. They're never going to deal with men's issues because men's issues don't sell. Right? It's as simple as that. And again, it's not their fault that the human race is wired this way, but they're also not helping.
Yeah, well, they're certainly not helping by saying gender is like just entirely socially constructed, and all of it is socially constructed, including the expectations placed on the two genders. And, you know, all of the expectations placed on men are socially constructed, and they're taught from childhood. No, they're not. They're inborn. They're innate, right? You can tell newborn babies, like, they respond differently to a woman's voice than to a man's voice, right? And that's just because they're programmed to do that. And by the time they're 3 months old, they can determine, they can differentiate men from women by looking at faces, right? 3 months old, okay? That is not social conditioning. They know the difference between men and women. They don't know what they are, right? And they don't know what a man is and a woman is. They just know that they're different, right? And that you might be a little bit more leery, a little bit more shy around men than you are around women, right? And that's how they react, right? And so it's like you have this situation where it's so innate, it's so wired into us, right? That we feel so much more sympathy and concern and protectiveness and an impulse to not do harm, right, to women because they're women, right? And they evolved to look the way they do to facilitate that because they look more like children than men do. They do. They look more like children than men do. And the reason for that is because children tug at our heartstrings. They make us want to provision them. They make us want to protect them. They make us want to soothe them when they're hurt. They make us want to save them, rescue them from danger. They make us want to, look after their needs and all of that, right? And be nice to them and not harm them. And that is baby's superpower. That is children's superpower. And women carry more of that into adulthood than men do, just by looking at them. And men are so you have women, they need to be protected and provided for. Children need to be protected and provided for. Who's left?
Yeah.
Whose job is that?
And we need to recognize this fact that we are all working against an inherent bias. And that just recognizing that it exists is a huge step forward. This is why I don't believe any of these people are doing anything about actually changing gender.
No,
because they operate within this paradigm that women are more vulnerable, they need more protection, that women's emotional state should define men's actions. They operate in that paradigm. They haven't exited that paradigm. All they've done is included a bunch of not men categories in the category of women.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Yep. Okay, I got a super chow from Richard Bier.
Okay.
He gives us $5 and says, "Have you seen that Jubilee video where it was 26 up against Ben Shapiro yet?"
Oy vey, shut it down.
No, it's not really relevant. I saw some of it.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of it.
But I don't know. In my opinion, it's not really relevant. Ben Shapiro supports circumcision, so that's all I got to say to that.
Of course he does.
Of course he does. I know. But yeah. Let's get, I think, let me see. So yeah, feminists can work with MRAs. Totally, like, you guys are completely separated from reality if you believe that.
We don't need your help. We don't need your help.
We just want you out of the way. Want you out of the way.
You don't even have to just go do your own thing. Bye.
Yeah. All right.
Where for instance, she said earlier, it's because women are going into these useless majors. Like, I'm a lawyer, half of our profession is women, half of the medical profession, doctors are women, right? This idea that men have to be the providers when half of U.S. households have.
What the fuck is this now?
She's basically saying women have jobs. I'm a lawyer. This is about me somehow.
Yeah, but she's on OnlyFans. Like her
She's
entire
also she's like the Bruce Wayne of hoes, Allison. She's a lawyer during the day and she's a sleut at night. You see, and this makes her a more complete woman. Come on now. She's like the shadow.
Women are increasingly doctors, lawyers, veterinarians, nurses, like people who can get good jobs, well-paying jobs, right? Okay, and but that is not like well-paying jobs. Okay, engineering, physics, PLC programming, right? Front-end development, right? Full stack programming, right? Those kinds of jobs, right? They can pay very, very well. And also, there is a premium on doing difficult jobs. Like my husband works for a utility. There's guys at his work who like go out in the trucks and they, do the outdoor work of, that, and it's highly skilled outdoor work. They didn't go to school for it, right? They trained on the job, and they're rewiring power lines, and they're sumping debris out of clogged storm drains and doing all of that kind of stuff, right? And that kind of inconvenient work, which you might have to be doing that in the pitch dark at 3 a.m., right, during a blackout, that comes at a cost, right? And women aren't doing that, right? And women are overwhelmingly the ones with the useless degrees. When men go to university, my husband's an exception because he has a Bachelor of Arts in English and Philosophy before he got his engineering degree. But yeah, no, like I think a lot of women, my sister, she wanted a job in government, and so she took a bachelor program in home economics. Like, why do you need to go to university to know how to cook, clean, and run a household? Right?
I mean,
like balance a checkbook. And how is that a 4-year program? Right?
Okay, but
what does that prepare you for? Oh, a job in the government, right? Because they don't care what the degree you have is. They just demand that you have one, right? So she took the easiest one she could think of, one that she enjoyed. She enjoys cooking and sewing and things like that, right? And so she took that, and then there was a hiring freeze because Ralph Klein became premier in Alberta. And he was like, no, we're going to go full austerity to clean up this fiscal mess.
I think Brian, your air conditioning might be going on again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, no, and they basically said we're doing attrition, we're retiring people early, and we're not hiring anybody new, and we're downsizing the government, and that led to like a huge economic boom. But she never forgave him for that because she didn't get her plum job that she wanted. Working at a basically unskilled job at the unemployment insurance office or something. Right?
And also, I would like to point out that this individual, I hope she didn't get any like government money to do her lawyer degree or any bursaries or anything, because she's not using it. She's doing OnlyFans. Okay, let's move.
All right, I jumped ahead to the next topic. So
men should go to therapy. No,
men should go to therapy. They shouldn't,
They
but let's see what
not.
they say. So we're gonna go ahead and play it from there. Here we go.
Go to therapy. Agree or step forward.
Men should go to therapy if it's Prim Reaper.
Yeah, right. So Blue Orange stepped up. We should
Golden.
Yeah, we should listen to what he has to. Yeah.
So I would be very cautious when it comes to. I'm not against it per se, but it's just I think there's a lot of things that are not completely sound. But I'm not against the idea of men going to therapy. If you find a good therapist and it helps you, sure.
Yeah, good therapy, not like I think what you're talking. There is some people that weaponize therapy talk that basically try to psychoanalyze people and use false like stereotypes about them. But good, honest therapy, I feel like men, women, everybody could benefit from that. And I feel like as men's right advocates, you guys should be striving for men, you know, taking their mental health more serious.
Has it benefited you if you?
No, I used to take therapy back in high school due to like, you know, uncertainty about the future and my academics and stuff like that.
I'm just pausing for the banana. I want to make sure nothing happens, so we're gonna keep going. But have you seen?
I don't remember hearing
this. The algorithm likes us, Allison. We were at 300 and something people on the vertical stream. We're at like 250. So hey, everyone that's watching, if you go to the channel, you can watch it horizontally. So there's a little bit more going on there if you want to watch it that way. But yeah, welcome to the stream. Okay, so I'm gonna hit play.
And it did me good. And I feel like a lot of people just need someone to talk to. And therapists is, you know, that's what they're made for, you know?
Well, I will say personally, I do think therapy is important, but I do have a problem with how it's seen as like the end all be all solution to men. Like, to me, America is such an isolationist country that even our forms of healing are isolationist. Like, go out somewhere, come back healed.
Yeah.
The solution is always therapy and pills. It's never community or compassion.
Right.
And I think that should be, like, to me, everybody I know, I've done therapy personally. I've been in it for a couple.
Okay, shut up.
This guy's not making a bad point. He's not making a bad point, but in order for the community, the community to heal men, the community has to take responsibility for what it's doing to men,
or at least stop.
Yeah,
they don't even need to admit what they've been doing. They just need to stop.
Well, yeah, exactly. He says what we need is community, and it's like, yeah, but whenever men try to form spaces, like women come and break it up. So
yeah, and it's just like, yeah, no, I don't even think at this point men absolutely I don't think they require an apology or atonement or anything like that.
Well, some want it. Some want it.
I know some want it, but you know, I think they'd be willing to live with just being not constantly undermined and blocked and vilified. And
let's look at what that one woman said about coping strategies and how men have to adopt women's ways of coping.
Oh yeah, crying,
and all of this other stuff. Is
complaining about her snag sweaters because she's got a nail sticking out of her forehead.
Yeah. If a therapist is essentially coming with a male client from the premise that he or she has to fix the male client or the man, is that healthy?
Yeah.
Like it's like a conversion therapy except for men.
Yeah, no, it's basically like, why can't you just be more like a woman? And like, this is why I would second Blue Orange's opinion that, you know, like, men have to be careful. They really have to vet their therapist, because if they don't, you're going to get the whole toxic masculinity narrative. You're going to be told that your own personal way of dealing with things, and often it's more effective, is not right. And what you should really do is just cry and complain, and other people will take you seriously when you do that, because that's how it is for women. When you cry and complain, people take you seriously. They don't like cross the street to avoid you, right? You know, Tom Golden's presentation at ICMI 2014 was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And if anybody wants to learn more about men and these issues and all of this, anybody new listening, go watch that. Just search ICMI 14 and then the name Tom Golden, and you should be able to find it on YouTube. And it was just absolutely brilliant. A brilliant way of describing the difference in how men heal. And he actually wrote a book called How Men Heal. So
Yeah. Okay, let's play some more. But yeah, I mean, I
was
ultimately
muted. I was
my
muted.
answer. Oh, go ahead, Alison.
Well, I was going to say, if you're going to a therapist that starts from the premise that you need to be torn down and rebuilt, then you're going to the wrong therapist. And too much modern mental health theory or conjecture starts from the premise that treating men as a problem that need to be fixed rather than having problems that they need assistance with in overcoming themselves. They start from that premise, and that premise is damaging. Right?
Yes.
You shouldn't go to a doctor who says you are the problem that needs to be fixed. You don't have a sickness. You are the sickness.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the American Psychology Association's
Yes.
guidelines on treating in men and boys.
Yep.
Men need to be taken down. They need to be changed. Their coping strategies need to be rewired to resemble women's. And they also need to recognize that they are the problem. Their masculinity is a problem, not just for them, but everybody else in their life.
Yep.
And that is not healing.
Yeah, no, you're not
help.
just sick, you're contagious.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I was just gonna read. I think I have a super chat or something, or I was gonna. Yeah, Richard Bier gives us a $5 super chow, and says, "Karen, just look at all of the accomplishments that Forrest Gump had with his degree in home economics." Thank you. Totally relevant. Okay, we're gonna play more of this.
Actually, I want to point something out because I see something in the vertical chat. This guy called Realist in the Room, which I don't think he is. When you portray men in a certain way, you also portray women in a certain way. And I don't like the way I'm portrayed as a woman by feminism or feminists. I don't like the fact that our overwhelming narrative about how men and women relate is one in which men oppress women. I know it's not true. It's never been proven. It is treated like it is absolutely the truth, and it's not. It's a lie. So not only do I not like being portrayed as a victim, I don't like being lied to. And I don't even have to appeal to talking for men. I can talk for myself as a woman. This is crap. Stop it. All right, let's keep going.
All right. Yeah. So anyway, my opinion on this is that unless therapy itself changes, I don't think men should go to it. And I think that men generally do better like with each other. So I'm more for men having their own places where they can hang out and bro it up. I think that is a way more healthier way to heal than you go into some shrink that's going to basically try to change you. Get you to transition or something so that you can heal from your toxic masculinity.
A soft transition essentially is what the American Psychology Association is. So you don't actually transition to being a woman. You just transition to identifying women as superior.
Well,
yeah.
Okay,
right,
but yeah, no, men would probably be better off getting together and going fishing or camping or getting out in nature with one another. Those kinds of things. I think that's actually, and that's something that we've really lost in a lot of respects because, when you actually, the scene in Crocodile Dundee where she's taking pictures of, the men doing their thing at their ceremony, the Aborigines and what's his name? Mick Dundee. Right. And they're doing some kind of male ritualistic, let's all get together and smoke and dance and talk and whatever. Right. And no women allowed. And she takes some photographs of them. Right. But it's, it used to be in those older, much more ancient hunter-gatherer societies and in more patriarchal societies that there were spaces where men could go and just be around other men and not have women intruding, not have women looking over their shoulders, listening in, and I think that for a lot of men, that actually is a form of therapy. So yeah, no, it's, but I think more now than ever, men have been essentially their emotions, their traumas, their difficulties have been completely sidelined. And I don't know whether they feel like even if they talk to their male friends about problems that they're having, that they're going to be taken seriously or they're going to be blamed, because the entire culture is one of blame right now because of this feminist patriarchy narrative. So,
yep. All right, so I skipped ahead a little bit, and we're going to get Montreal Vin Diesel's view on this question about therapy, because I think he works with men, and so he might have like a more informed, or at least like a different viewpoint.
Definition of therapy that I think is wrong, and that's why I was hesitating, because community.
Explain what you mean.
For men especially, and again, I can't talk for women, I'm not a woman, but for men especially, we lack the interaction with other men without having women involved.
Yes, that's true.
And this is why I love martial art. This is absolutely why it has made me the man that I am today, because I got to bleed, to literally physically hurt somebody else, but it was always in a controlled manner. I am a violent man by nature, but I meditate every day. I have my violence under control because I was shown techniques to control myself that were taught by community of men.
So martial arts is your therapy, but not talk therapy.
The word therapy that's misused. Men need therapy, but do they need to go see a psychologist, or they just need to go to a retreat somewhere for a few weeks where it's just dudes? Because unlike...
Yeah. I mean, I want, okay, so do you want to hear if they respond to it? Let me see. I want to see if there's like a counterpoint, or if you guys want to say anything to that.
No, that just is a reiteration, a more concise one of what I just said. Men need to spend time together outside the presence of women, in a kind of stand by me manner, like, what was it, 5 young men going out to see a dead body by the train tracks, right? And they did a lot of bonding, and they did a lot of talk therapy, like amongst themselves. And it was like, that's just, you don't necessarily need to go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and you definitely don't need meds. Stay away from them unless you're really, really sick, unless you have something seriously, seriously wrong with you. Right? Check your testosterone. If you're depressed, check your testosterone, check your vitamin levels, check all those
things. Get some
things.
vitamin D, right?
Get a bunch of vitamin D, right? And
eat some red meat, put down the fucking soy, milk.
Set
vitamin D,
tofu
definitely.
aside. But,
women need some vitamin D, definitely.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you look at like, most people in the Northern Hemisphere are deficient in vitamin D, particularly people with dark skin. And when you actually look at people's vitamin levels and all of those other things, right, and what kind of nutrition they're getting, like my son, my youngest, he started taking a multivitamin every day about a month ago. The second day, he comes upstairs and he says, "I can't believe I wasn't taking these. I feel amazing," right? And I'm like, why weren't you taking them? Like, you're supposed to take your vitamins, right?
Right.
Because you're not getting everything.
Didn't Hulk Hogan say that? Say your prayers, eat your vitamins.
Yeah. No, and it's like, because it's honestly, and if
all the
you're
little
feeling
Hulksters
depressed,
know.
If you're feeling depressed or a little emotionally unstable or anxious, or like you have a bad temper, right, that flares up for maybe not so good a reason, or things like that, I would have your testosterone levels checked, not to see if they're too high, but to see if they're too low, right? So yeah, and maybe get a patch, because it's like, honestly, it's when you look at the kind of moodiness, and when you look at men's hormone cycles, and what drives them to go out with other men, right? It's the Tsimane tribe in Bolivia is exemplar of that, right? They're at home with the wife and the kids, right? These hunter-gatherer men, and they're getting more cranky and more antsy and more restless and more insomniac, and they're having trouble sleeping and they're getting testy with their kids and whatever. And that's time to go. It's time for me to go grab my buddy and we're going to go out and try and hunt a tapir. And then, you know, they maybe spend 8 or 10 or 12 hours hunting this thing, stalking this thing. And then when they bring it down, they get this big flood of testosterone. They get this big flood of oxytocin, right? And the testosterone gives them the victory effect, right? I'm the champion of the world, and it helps repair their muscles and it cures their fatigue, right? Their tiredness, and gives them a boost of energy, right? And the oxytocin reminds them, right? Because it's the love drug, it's the bonding hormone, right? I have a wife and kids at home who would really like to have some of this tapir too, right? So instead of sitting down with my buddy in the woods and making a fire and eating it right here, right? The whole thing, right? We have the energy and the motivation now to lug this thing home. And the bonding hormone makes them want to share it with everybody that they care about, right? Which includes my hunting partner and his family, right? So it's like this perfect hormone cycle of being low testosterone and then going out and getting something done and bringing it home and then just coasting on that until the meat runs out, right? That's really what it is. And you know, and you do that with other men. Like that's what you do. And when you're out doing your hunt, that you're talking with your hunting partner about stuff while you're walking side by side, not looking each other in the eye.
Yep. All right, should we play some more? Alison, stop taking the bait.
Okay.
Please.
Well, I do want to say that, I mean, if guys want to use therapy, it's probably not a good idea to go to a therapist who thinks that you're the problem rather than you have something that needs to be worked on. Because what are you going to get from that except a constant feeling that you yourself are an enemy, right? Now, if you have a therapist that's giving you skills to overcome stuff, because I went to therapy, I had severe anxiety, I had to develop skills to overcome it. If you go there to get skills, that makes perfect sense. You go in there for something specific, you're learning the skills to overcome it. But a lot of therapy doesn't talk about that. It's like either if you're a woman, it affirms your paranoia, your sense of victimhood, your sense that you are, the world is out to get you, which women don't need. That's not improving their sense of well-being at all. And if you're a man, this kind of therapy tells you that you are the problem. So it's like not functional stuff. All right, but some forms of therapy can be about acquiring skills to manage your emotions. Not all of them. So just be aware. And Brian, you're.
Do you want to listen to the next clip or no?
I think we could listen to the next clip. But that's going to be let's listen to the next clip.
All right. So yeah, I mean we're coming up on 2 hours, so we're gonna be wrapping it up I think soon, right? I know Karen can't stay and all that, so, but I can't help that the AC is there.
It's easier for women to bond.
Just think like many men can bond with other men, but I feel like instead of doing that, they look at women to solve their.
No, I agree with that actually. I think a lot of
I see this a lot in the men's rights
activism.
You see, okay,
well, we should go back a little bit so we can hear it. Let's go back a little bit because we were talking over it and stuff. So let me go back. Okay, I'm gonna play it from, what was it? Maybe from here.
Do or die friend, and most men do not have that.
Yeah.
Because women do tend to bond. It's easier for women to bond.
It is. Just think like many men can bond with other men, but I feel like instead of doing that, they look at women to solve their.
No, I agree with that actually. I think a lot of. I see this a lot in the men's rights activist movement, where basically, again, we turn to women to use their emotional labor to sort of like, kind of just, women are natural caretakers. They're not. Nobody's a natural anything, and it's a thing where we need to start doing that for each other.
Exactly.
Like
emotional labor. Oh, good lord.
Nobody's a natural anything.
This is bullshit. Again. whenever men get together to deal with their own issues on their own terms, feminists show up and try to break it down. Me and Brian did a show on the Orthodox monasteries of monks, like just communities of monks. It's like a peninsula or an island that's just all male. Like
it's called Mount Athos.
Mount Athos.
Yeah.
It's 100% male. And even their charity services to men, right? So they will do dinners, and they'll provide dinners for men, and presumably some kind of spiritual guidance as well. There are groups that are trying to get into Mount Athos, which is men helping men, and force women in there.
Yeah.
Every time men try to help other men, women show up, mostly feminist women, but possibly other identities of women. They show up and they say, we need to have control over this space. And then they get control over the space, and then they start setting up everything in terms of how they see it, like what is comfortable for them, what supports their view of reality. And then the space is now a woman's space.
Yeah, what supports my emotional needs. It was the same with the men's sheds in Australia. You know, like it wasn't long before
the mythopoetic movement.
The mythopoetic movement. Yes,
got
infiltrated. The men's sheds movement. Bettina Arndt fought hard to keep the men's sheds male only, but I think feminists finally got the upper hand, and women were allowed in. And you got these men, these older men in particular, right? And they're trying to mentor boys and younger men, right? And they're like, I don't want to talk about my prostate cancer when there's a woman that's not my wife around. Like, I'd want to talk about it with my friend here, right? But I don't want to talk about it in front of a woman, right? Like it's just not something that I want to do, right? And so it's like, and she fought so hard to keep those spaces male only, and I think she lost the battle because Australia is just as far gone as, you know, the US and Canada. But yeah, no, you just, like, the first thing that feminists did, one of the first things was close down all of the all-male country clubs, social clubs, golf clubs, right? And you know what you should do one of these days is actually do a critique of an episode of the Flintstones where Betty and Wilma infiltrate the water buffalo lodge because they want to know what the men are up to, right? They're like so curious what kind of evil things the men are up to. Ooh, they're up to something, right? And then they end up regretting it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Some more or what? Should we?
Well, let's
it's
see.
almost at the top of the hour.
We did start a little bit late, but you know, I think it's what do you guys think? A little bit more? Let's see. Does anybody make a point, or is this just more blather?
Come on, Alison. I don't. Why do you ask me that every time we go? Like, no one ever makes a point that's solid enough for you anyway. So we might as well just respond to what's there. Like, are you expecting someone's brain, like that guy's gonna pull off the afro and it's actually his brain and he's gonna make a really powerful point? No, it's gonna be more of the same. Like the feminists only have talking points. They're just regurgitation machines. This could be a fucking like one of those like, you know, automat soda things that you just put a quarter in and out comes a can that says men should cry more often. That's like that's all. That's what they do. That's like the extent of the 10 years of this. 10 years. It's the same content. I'm sorry, but that's what we have. This is what we have to make do with what we have and try to be entertaining. But trust me, you're not going to learn anything revolutionary from these feminists. And the MRAs are saying stuff, or at least the people on the side of the MRAs are saying stuff that we've already said ourselves. So we're not going to get anything extra amazingly mind-blowing from that either. But I mean, people want us to respond to this stuff. So that's where we're at. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm willing to do it. But like when you say, does anything really important happen? No. This isn't these. They're like These conversations are like episodes of Seinfeld. It's like about nothing. It's the same shit. You know? I'm sorry, but it's true. I mean, I don't mind it, but like, let's not pretend like there's like a secret video that's gonna have like the fucking, you know, mother load of talking points in it that we've never heard before. Like, it's gonna be the same shit. So I'm sorry, but this is like, the thing is, okay, what we're dealing with is this monotonous, circular reasoning, these ridiculous arguments that never get a sufficient pushback, and they just continue on and on infinitum while the world burns in the background, and they're still going, you know, men, they get custody if they want it. Like, that's not real. 1 in 4 women, 77 cents on the dollar. You know, it's just the same shit. It's never changed, and it's not going to change because it's all about maintaining the institution. It's not about the truth in any way. So we're just going to keep going until, like, someday, you know, maybe someone yeah, like, we'll all suffer, and then people are like, you know, we should probably do something about this women-men thing, and maybe like really do something about it. Like while they're in when they're in a cave and they're wearing like the skin of their enemies to like keep warm, you know, we should probably address this issue. Maybe, and then somebody's gonna come and be like, well, you know, first we gotta fix women need help first. Like, they're obviously suffering more. So yeah, it's just like okay, as long as we don't pretend like we're gonna get anything out of this. That's like really me. Oh man. Oh yeah. That changes everything. Oh, I get it now. No, that's not gonna happen.
It was an epiphany.
Yeah.
But anyway, well, it's past the top of the hour now.
Okay. All right.
And I think we should probably end on that epic rant.
Yeah. Of the problem with this is that it is endlessly the same thing recycled.
Yeah, because they don't want it to change. They want to keep you in this holding pattern, you know, where
ignoring the problem. That's just to let's keep ignoring the problem. Let's keep ignoring the problem. Don't mind the lights going out, the plumbing no longer working. Let's keep ignoring the problem. No need. It's somebody else's problem. Men are to blame. Let's blame men some more. Surely that'll work this time. All right, so if you
let me see if I got any more super chats or anything before I close it out here.
Okay, before you do that, I'm gonna go. I have to let I think it's coming out as bum right now.
Borat.
Yeah, no, he's shaking. He's shaking. So, he just vibrates when he has to poop.
Vibrating.
Yeah. So
eyes are bugging out. He's like, I don't have any more room.
Yeah, one of them's gonna like go, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna hang up now. Go
take care of Borat.
All right. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. So do we have anything further that we need to speak of? Nope. Okay. All right. So if you like this content, you want to send us a comment and a tip, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. I'm pretty sure it was Pepito who asked for this, right? Pepito.
Yeah, thank you, Pepito. I mean, I think it's worth responding to, but I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't. This isn't Hitchcock. This is Michael Bay. Like that, we're just like, it's going to be very predictable. So it's Zack Snyder.
It's also important to respond to because, like I said, I was going to be on this panel, except I'm still in the shit books with the U.S. Border protection. So, like, I just finished my 5-year ban. And also we're on a watch list in the Department of Homeland Security. So I didn't want to risk it. So I didn't do it. I didn't go to this panel, although I was invited. We had many weeks. They were even going to change the date that they did the recording to get me on, but I just didn't want to risk it. I talked to the immigration lawyer and he's like, basically, well, it depends on who you get at the border, whether or not you'll be allowed through or you'll get another 5-year ban. And I'm like, no. And so I wanted to talk about this because, like I said, I almost ended up on this panel, which I'm not sure if I would have improved it at all, but there you go. it's good to see the arguments that actually happened and maybe give an idea of what I would have said. But anyway, if you enjoy this content, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a comment outside of YouTube's comment enhancement system. And we also have memberships on this YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and take a look in the low bar, which I believe you did the updated low bar, right? Okay, great. All right. So that's it. Back to you, Brian.
Okay, so if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show. You can watch the full video that we were responding to in the description. There's a link so you can watch it yourself. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of the Rantzerker, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day or night, everybody.
Men's rights activists are machines.
Right, then we're done. Oh, fuck. Wait, hold on a second.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.